to what the tool's for. That's
Right,
how
okay.
that's how I feel anyway.
I would second that. And I put lack of individual ownership, because my feeling is that it's my AWP, and therefore I should be able to update my AWP. I shouldn't have to wait for my line manager to do it or anything like that. My line manager, by all means, should sign it off.
Yeah.
But in order to own it, I need to own it.
Yeah.
And at the moment, as a line manager, people are contacting me and saying, I've done 2 hours on somebody's module, can you add this to my AWP? And my mental reaction is unpublishable, but my reaction is, of course.
Yeah.
And that just takes more time out of whatever else I was going to do that.
Right.
Pointless.
Can I just say something about that? I do agree that there's no ownership, and I do agree that for ownership to happen, it needs to happen at a more local level. But the implication for that is that all members of staff need to know how to input something, whatever that something will become, because I think in its current form, in the way that we input it, it won't help staff to try and figure out what
Absolutely.
the proportion might be, or the marking time might be, because it's just not user friendly.
But there are standards that we can set to attribute to those. People know how to book flights and book their seats on flights on airplanes. Even the person with the lowest level of IT skills can do that. So why are we assuming they can't do this?
But Paula, you bring up something else that's quite interesting, I think, and again, maybe it comes to one of my other little points. So you talked about staff email you and say, I've done 2 hours and things. No, I won't change the database for that, because on the overall thing, it means nothing.
Absolutely.
Yes, you've done 2 hours there, but you've probably not done 2 hours somewhere else.
Exactly.
And so I come to the other point, it has become a bean counting. Yes. Instead of it being about, have we got the work, these are all the tasks, these are all the modules that we have to deliver, how are we going to share that between us, how are we going to balance your work between semester 1 and semester 2, how are we going to ensure that you're teaching things that you love and enjoy, but also that they're teaching and covering things that we don't all love and enjoy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Instead of being that, it becomes, I've done 10 minutes here or 2 hours or whatever it might be. It's become bean counting.
Agreed.
It's cultural, because that.
Yeah.
So we're not at that place.
But that's come from it's tried to be used for purposes it's not intended to be used
Right.
for.
I'd agree entirely, actually. And for me, part of the problem with the bean counting approach, one is I don't agree with it anyway, but also it introduces inequity, and I really struggle with the inequity because the way we all manage around this table, I'm sure, is probably quite different, and certainly the way we manage the database, I suggest anyway, is probably quite different, and as a consequence that causes inequity amongst staff, including ourselves, and that causes problems as well. I would suggest so. I struggle with, most of all, the inequity. The fact that different people use it in different ways.
I would agree with that.
We're giving this amount of hours for linking, so it kind of highlights the inequity. And for me, I'm not in favour of hiding the inequity.
No.
I think then we should be doing something about it, because I think that's one of the things that causes problems with trying to manage staff per se. It isn't people focused. It isn't people focused at all.
I
It's
think
about
the
the
most
task.
important knock-on of that is that you lose goodwill,
Yeah, absolutely.
because people will use that framework to not do something,
Yes.
particularly if they're fairly close, or even slightly over on the 462. You lose that goodwill. I mean, I remember when I came in, there was actually no real concern about AWP, because when we planned timetables, if you came off 3 modules, you don't put somebody on 6. It's quite common sense. So the teaching team talked, they kind of managed, and everybody went away happy because they did what they wanted to do. I think as more and more of my colleagues have gotten an idea of what it is, and even though it is transparent, it's become a little bit problematic, because they can see that those people who are always overworked are still overworked, but those that are under don't seem to be, or not effectively, made to take on more, and that causes more disquiet. And it's very difficult, because one of my most difficult jobs is to actually say to somebody, there's some marking to be done, unfortunately you're under plan, so can you please take that on because it's in your specialist area. Oh no, I'm too busy because I'm doing something else.
But part of the reason for a 1 hour seminar, I get 1 hour against 462, and that is, I can see I did it in 1 hour. However, for the 25% uplift for assessment, we all know that is a complete and utter nonsense. and also the preparation time. The 1 for 1 hour is supposed to be account for preparation time. You get 1 hour to prepare for a seminar. You get 1 hour to prepare for a lecture. And again, we all know lectures take an awful lot more time than seminars do to
But
prepare.
that's, I think, historically because we also record a minima.
Thing
Yeah.
about that.
That's what I was told when I first came here, was that if you're in your first year, you should get twice. So
Which
for
makes
every hours you did, you should get 2 hours prep rather than 1 hour. And also, if it's a new module, you should get twice the amount of time because you're preparing everything for the first time, theoretically.
The tension I'm discovering this year for the first time is that I'm being asked to think beyond 462 about all those other things that academics are supposed to do, and there seems to be a growing debate this year particularly about all those other things that are part of the academic contract role, and we've got to think more broadly than 462, but that culturally is going to be quite difficult with staff who are not engaging with that. Not some of them are. I mean, this is where for me the inequity really lies, because some of them are filling the whole, whatever it is, 1406 or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Others are delivering absolutely to their 462. Some of that other time, maybe not so effectively, to put it sort of generously.
And I think it's the other time, because within our department we've been trying to capture that for a while, and I think it's the other time that's the trickiest time. I think the actual
Yes.
face-to-face teaching time is one issue, but at the side of the other time, it's quite simple.
But that's where
And
the
again-
the pressure is, and I
Yes.
wrote up, to become salespeople for the course, to do the PR, to get on the media centre, to all those other bits of suddenly that's being packaged as part of an academic role.
That's why I moved to the system that I use, because we have roles, we have lead roles, we have different projects, and we allocate the STD and the TRD separately. So I know that some, is it DNS, they do a 1 to 2 or something, and within the 2 it includes marking and module leadership and all that kind of thing. Whereas ours is really bean counting. If you look at my spreadsheets, it's really bean counting. So we split out the teaching, the prep, the marking, the module leadership, and everything else we split out. And this is, again, part of, I guess, what I inherited, but also what I've developed, in a sense that it was my promise to staff that everything will be as accurate. But of course, I know, and some of them do know, that what's on there is a minima. And that's the thing. But I can't go above the minima, because that then impacts upon my department's business plan, because we only have 68, 69 FTEs. And I guess this links a little bit to what system do you use. I don't really use the work planning tool for what it's supposed to be. I use it as a resource information tool. Because if Mark Townley comes to me and just says, how many hours is this course costing you to deliver? He wants that information. I know I can give it, but I knew that if I'd used the database, I can't.
And that comes back to what I said right at the beginning, is that's why it's become, I'm not saying you're bean counting by any means, but what you are doing is counting. And for me, that wasn't what it was designed to do.
I don't think it was. It's evolved.
Well, they've asked us to evolve it.
yeah,
Personally, I'm a bit stamp my feet about it and say
We said changes
it's
your
not
role,
accurate
and it
enough.
changes your role
But
as well.
yeah,
because you were
it's-
hired for one thing.
It's
But it's-
frighteningly developing into a costing model.
Yeah.
It is. It's
And
currently.
that I am particularly
I can
perturbed
guarantee you
about
it is a
in
costing
academic
model.
I'm with
setting.
you, Paula, because it's not reliable. It's not
No.
valid.
It's only
not
accurate at the point you press the enter key. That's it.
Yeah.
It can't be accurate
It
any
is
other time.
absolutely a costing model, which is why I know that my spreadsheet can give that. But that's
Yeah.
only because, for example, most recently, and this was a discussion that my head of department had with Mark. And as you know, the UEG are still waiting to look at new staff, and we've asked for X number of new staff, and all is that dependent upon recruitment and stuff like that. And Mark Townley asked my head of department about, well, where, in the last year you had X number of new staff, where did all of these go? And I could actually tell my head of department that to run the department with all the roles that we have in place for 70 people, it costs us 14.3 FTEs.
Well, we've done similar work.
Surprising at all.
We've done